some follow-up answers.
Okay, and, how did that come about that you did follow-up? Like, did someone tell you to do that? I don't know what they said. Did someone direct you to do that?
As I recall, I think, it was more that, it was a case that was a very kind of case that the GBI was calling to assist, and there were a few things that I had done to help out.
Okay. And when you say the GBI was called in to assist, when the GBI is called in to assist a county sheriff's office in a case, who is the lead on that normally?
Typically, the GBI would remain the lead, and then as needed, or if because a lot of times, sometimes the local agency gets phone calls and that sort of thing, and if we do any investigative follow-up, the general best practice would be, after any follow-up is done, to inform the GBI of what follow-up was done, or what it could lead, or anything like that.
Okay. And you mentioned that you did some follow-up on that, and can you tell us what follow-up that you did?
I assisted with a few different things. One of the things was on, I believe it was August the 21st of 2019, I emailed a Miss Price regarding basically trying to find out if any subscription records still existed from as far as trying to find out if any of the list of subscribers to the Albany Herald newspaper that took delivery in Ware County, trying to find out basically Waycross, Bickley, Mayor, or any other Ware County community was my goal. And from about June 1st of 1988 to December 21st of 1988, and I emailed that to Ms. Price, and then I think it was the following day, August 22nd, when a person named, listed as Mr. Tom Bell, who I believe was affiliated with the Albany Herald newspaper in some way, or one of their, possibly I think one of their parent companies or something such as that. And the main point of his response to me, or response to that he had sent in his email, said, the main part of it said, quote, "Ware County is well beyond our carrier delivery footprint. I went back to our database and cannot find any records that we have." Repeating that, I went back in our database and cannot find any records that we have ever delivered that far. And that was the answer from the email, I believe, from Mr. Bell.
So are you saying that Albany Herald was not delivered to Ware County?
That was my understanding from my interpretation of what he responded back, or sent in his email to me, I should say.
And why were you concerned about the Albany Herald?
Well, it was my understanding that in fairly close proximity to where the child was found, that there was my understanding was Albany Herald newspaper was recovered in the area. So it seemed only reasonable to try to find out if any Ware County residents had received the Albany Herald and how many of them there may be from back then, and then ascertain if we could, investigators or detectives or GBI rather could find out, anyone could find out who, and take receipt of it if that would be a viable lead.
Did you do as regarding follow-up? Is there other stuff that you did? Or?
I did several other things, assisted with getting some records and that sort of thing, and also there were other matters too. I could go in individually if you need to.
Sure, yeah, I'd like to know what. You said that you assisted with getting some records. What kind of records do you remember?
As I recall, I believe there was some birth records, and there was trying to go through. I assisted getting some birth records. There were also I had coordinated with a concerned citizen about trying to get some reward money that was released in the press, hopefully allow for someone to come forward with a legal.
Okay, now, let's back up just a minute. Now, you said birth records, and what were you trying to do, or what were y'all trying to do getting birth records? What would be the point of that?
Well, I think one of the ideas was that if we could get a list of all children born during those year groups, that sadly that the deceased child would have belonged to, then perhaps if there was a way later to, after getting the birth records, to then go through all those records to try to find out if we could isolate a person who was not, had no record of having reached adulthood.
And when you said that y'all requested birth records, is this where county birth records we're talking about?
There were several different things. If you'll give me a moment to consult my reports here. I believe there was one set of Ware County birth records, and I believe there was also a sort of a statewide, I believe, one state set of birth records that was initially obtained, as well as some, I think, requested some birth certificate type records as well.
And were y'all able to develop any leads regarding this birth records? Were they?
Well, there were possibilities, I think, within them, but there were, as I understand it, things came about later that were able to more focus the search.
And anything else that you can recall that you had at this time?
Yes, ma'am, it's been some time. I was just trying to make sure I didn't anything else. There were, as I said, there were several sets of records, and then helping coordinate getting the reward put up. And then there was, I think, a telephone call.
I'm gonna stop you right there, I apologize. The reward, now when you're saying to help coordinate, get the reward money, are you talking about to get money to put up for a reward? Is that what you're saying to, you said that you talked or had contact with concerned citizens about reward money. Are you saying reward money to put up to try to help find out who the child is?
It was my understanding that the money would be utilized for a public appeal, and then once, if somebody called in with information, that they would be potentially eligible to receive that reward.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you, you're looking, go ahead and refer back.
And there was, I believe, a call that I took out some information on, but, as it's, right now, I don't, without going into deep specifics, I don't know I just help do some general follow-up on the case as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. No further questions. The defense may have some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
1 second, Your Honor. No question, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe it's what we speak.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Major.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Safe drives. State's next witness.
State would call Agent Jason Seacrest.
Secret.
Yes, Your Honor. Sorry about that, my mind hasn't turned off. Good morning. Agent Seekers, could you please state your full name for the record and spell
Jason Seacrest, JASONSEACRIST.
it? And, Agent Seekers, where are you employed, or are you employed?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And where are you employed at?
With the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, I'm the special agent in charge of the GBI Region 4 Field Office in Douglas, Georgia.
Okay. And when you say special agent in charge, what does that mean?
Every work unit in the GBI has two supervisors, or mostly two supervisors, one being the special agent in charge and one being the assistant special agent in charge. They're responsible for oversight and basically the good order of the work unit.
And how long have you been employed with the GBI?
Since 2011.
And were you in law enforcement prior to 2011?
No, ma'am.
And can you tell us about what you have to have as far as training, certifications, that type of thing to be law enforcement and a GBI?
All law enforcement is required to go through the basic mandate training with the police academy. It is, now it's approximately 22 weeks. When I went through, it was about 11 or 12 weeks. All law enforcement personnel go through that. As a GBI agent, we go through another 11 or 12 weeks of training with the basic agent academy. That's also in Forsyth, Georgia. Following that training, there is continual training every year on an annual basis. Every agent gets at a minimum, really 40 hours. And then we all tend to look for specialty areas of training that we attend throughout the year.
And, law enforcement has to be post-certified?
That's correct.
And prior to getting into law enforcement, did you have a different career, or were you just younger, or?
No, I was in accounting and finance. I spent approximately 8 years in corporate accounting and finance. My actual education is in accounting, as well as a master's of business administration, and I obtained a certified public accounting certificate.
Now, how would you tell the jury how the GBI gets cases? Like, how are y'all assigned cases?
Generally speaking, the GBI is what's called a request agency. The GBI was created in the early 1970s, actually by Governor Jimmy Carter at the time. The agency was set up to assist local law enforcement and other state law enforcement agencies. We have very little, let's call it original jurisdiction. So there are very limited types of cases that we can just get involved in on our own. Typically, and especially at a field office, we have to be requested, and the statute that created the GBI lists who can request the GBI to assist in an investigation. Typically, it's going to be a local sheriff, a local police chief, or a local district attorney, but we can also be requested by certain judges, and of course by the governor and the attorney general's office.
Okay. And can you kind of tell us why a sheriff's office would request help, assistance from GBI?
In South Georgia, it tends to be because we have resources that a local sheriff's office or police department may not possess, or the manpower issue of working the more difficult cases. So typically, it will be a case that's going to be longer term, that may cross county lines, going to different jurisdictions, or it may just be one that has needs more advanced processing or more advanced techniques that a GBI agent would get through training. Sometimes it also has to do with conflicts of interest. Sometimes we're requested because there may be an implication of somebody that was in the law enforcement community or within the judicial community, and they need an independent party to investigate.
Okay. And once y'all are requested by a sheriff's office and y'all, an agent, I assume, is sent there to and assigned that case, how does that work? Like, do y'all work with the sheriff's department? Who's in charge? That type of thing. Can you kind of describe that process?
So traditionally, if a case is requested, we're requested to work a case with a local law enforcement agency. Typically, we work with the local law enforcement agency. We find that the strength of our investigation many times is based on our partnerships with local law enforcement. An agent, well, for instance, our office in Douglas covers 11 counties. So we cover all the way from Cook County all the way up to Jeff Davis and Akron County. And if you're not familiar with that, it's 11 counties and approximately 2 hours from the most southern point to the most northern point. We do not have 11 agents assigned to that office, which means our agents float to different counties or assign certain counties, but end up working in other counties. With that in mind, we're not in the streets every day knowing the community the way a local law enforcement officer would be. So most of our success comes from partnering with a local law enforcement agency where their investigators that are familiar with the community and the people that they live with, partner with an agent who has the skills and techniques that help us to come to a case's conclusion. The only time that wouldn't happen is typically when I talked about where there may be an issue with some concern about some bias or something where we've been asked to be an independent agency to investigate, and at that point we would work on our own.
And I want to draw your attention or ask you this question. Are you familiar with the Ware County Baby Jane Doe case?
Yes, ma'am.
And how are you familiar with that case?
I came to the Region 4 field office in 2018 when I was promoted to the Assistant Special Agent in charge. As one of the supervisors, like I mentioned earlier, we become familiar with all the cases in our office, to include cold cases all the way up to the current cases that were requested to work. And it was in that time that I became familiar with the Ware Baby Jane Doe case.
Okay. Were you the lead agent on the case?
No, ma'am.
Was there, I mean, this spanned a long time, so were there multiple agents that came and went or reassigned, that type of thing on the case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is that normal on a case, like this one?
It is. As a case is, as it grows cold, we have agents that, come into the office, the case is assigned to, and they may work at an office for 5 or 6 years, and they've been here that case for that long. We have some agents that may come to an office, and after 3 years, they may transfer to another unit or decide to take another career path. So as those agents transition in and out of the office, we have to reassign cases so that none of our cases are ever left behind or forgotten. We always assign a new agent to a case to be sure that the case is being followed up. And occasionally we may reassign just to put a new set of eyes on that case. As the case is cold, sometimes it just takes a different perspective. And a new agent that comes on that case can review it and may find a different item that they find of interest and lead that they can find based on that new review that they do.
Okay, and you mentioned a cold case. Can you describe what you mean by a cold case? And I think kind of we all know as lay people, but can you describe what that means to y'all as investigators?
So there's no official definition for a cold case. So you may get a different definition or follow this from different people. In my mind, if we haven't solved it, and in personal opinion, if we haven't solved it in a year, by solved I mean made an arrest, then we're probably looking at it as a cold case. I think traditionally more folks probably think after 3 years, we now established a cold case unit in 3 years is the marker. But most of our cases are solved and with an arrest made within a year. Many of them are solved and an arrest is made in a week or less. So if we've gone a year without an arrest, there's probably something else going on, and we need to, if I can call it a cold case that we're working on to get to the point of arrest. A cold case doesn't always mean that we don't have a good understanding of who may have committed the crime. It just means we've not been able to get the evidence that we need to get probable cause to make the arrest.
And how are cold cases treated? So after a year passes, do y'all just like shut the case, don't do any work on it, or how does that work? Can you explain that?
Absolutely not. Yeah, as GBI, our process for not just cold cases, but all cases is once a quarter. The supervisors and the agents sit down and review every case that they're carrying. Most agents in our office are carrying somewhere from 30 to 50 cases. On average, I think they have about 10, what you would call cold cases. And so every quarter, we're discussing the case, where they stand, follow up on. This is a process that's within the GBI policy that's made to ensure that when we come for a gift case, that we're constantly working towards solving these cases.
And do you know, if that's how cold cases were treated in 1988?
I can't speak all the way back to 1988, so I'm not familiar what the policy was. I know that since 2011, for sure, that's how it has always been done. And based on my review of case files, I know that that process goes well before 2011, but I couldn't tell you the time when that actually became implemented.
And, so going back to, the Ware County case, I understand that you were not the lead agent assigned to the case, that you're a supervisor. Do you know where the location of, Baby Doe was found? Do you know where that location is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And, did you review any evidence, photos, any of that type of thing?
As I was at Region 4,
Yes.
I was supervising the case.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. And, how far, if you know, is where Baby Jane Doe was found to Albany? How far is it? I keep wanting to say Waycross, and I understand there's a little bit outside of Waycross, the middle of it, based on testimony. Can you tell us approximately how far that is to Albany?
I'm going to say approximately 2 hours. I actually drove through there this morning, and I'm going to say approximately 2 hours.
Okay. And while you were the supervisor at that region, you said that you looked at evidence, where the body was found. What other things were you able to, did you look at the case file, or were you just there for agents to assist agents, or how did that work?
So it's a little bit of both. I think our office generally rotates about 300 to 350 cases a year versus cold cases, cases that are in the judicial process, new cases that we're getting throughout the year. So with that volume of cases, I can't say that I read every cold case file from front to back. As a supervisor, my role is to be familiar with the cases, to discuss leads and different investigative strategies that are going on. In this particular case, I don't know that I've read the entire case file, but I have read large portions of the case file. I have reviewed the photographs, I have looked through the evidence. Whenever an agent completes an investigative act, they write a report, and those reports have to be approved by a supervisor. So I have likely read a large number and approved a large number of reports that were done in this case since I got here in 2018.
And you said discuss investigative leads. Do you know, when you were at the region, do you know if they were still trying to get leads, use different techniques, anything like that to try and solve this case?
We are always trying to look for new leads, develop new leads. Even if no new information is coming in, one of the things, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes local law enforcement, just through their interactions with the community, will sometimes get a piece of information and not think a lot of it, but it may be important to us. So even if we have nothing new coming in, at least once a year, it was 6 months to a year, we're at least going to reach out to that local law enforcement agency that originally requested us and say, hey, have you heard anything new? So at the minimum, that's occurring, but typically we're out there trying to generate new leads, doing different things to try to generate leads so that we can find information that leads to an arrest.
And when you were the supervisor in that region, supervising the agents in this case, who were some of the agents on the case? Do you remember?
As a case agent?
Yes.
I believe when I got to the office, Agent Seth Hollander was the case agent, and it wasn't too long after, maybe within 2 years of me getting to the office, that the case was reassigned to Agent Huntley.
And is Agent Huntley the current lead investigator or lead agent, sorry, on the case?
Yes, ma'am, she is.
And can you tell us, if you know, what some of the ways the agents were trying to get new leads in this particular case?
Since I came to Region?
Yes.
When I first came to Region 4, as I was, it takes a little bit of time to get familiar with all the cases when you first come to an office. That was when Agent Hollander first broached the subject of some advanced DNA testing that was coming online and that we were learning more about. And that was seen as kind of a big mover for this case as a possibility. And so that was, I believe, initially began to look into in 2019, early in 2019. And that was kind of a big key for us, was the advanced DNA. And not just for this case, but in other cases too. There came a period of time as DNA technology is advancing, we are constantly reviewing evidence and what may be a good opportunity to use more advanced DNA testing as it progresses. And this was probably the next big step in this case when I got to Region 4.
Okay, was there any attempt by the agents, or yourself to, publicize this, to bring this back to the media attention, newspapers, anything of that nature?
Yes, ma'am. We do use our relationships with local media to try to, one way to generate new media is by putting information out in the community, and we did that in this case also.
Okay, and did you take part in any of that, or was that the agent?
I did.
Okay, and what type of, what form of media was that?
We did print media, which had been done in the past also, but sometimes it's about timing, and just because you've done it before doesn't mean that you can't be successful in doing it again. So we did print media, but important in this case turned out to be some TV media through broadcast stations in Jacksonville and Albany, where we did, I did on-camera interviews and provided a copy of one of the crime scene pictures, as well as some reward information that had been offered up, and some other information about the case to try to generate new leads.
Was there ever any, pictures or drawings or reconstructions, anything like that of the baby Jane Doe?
There was, as I mentioned, there was one crime scene photo that I released to generate attention. It was as, I'm trying to keep it as minimal in the jarring nature of it, and it just had to do with the overall crime scene itself. And then on top of that, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children had previously done a rendering, a drawing for what they believed baby Jane Doe would have looked like, and also provided some information on the clothing that baby Jane Doe was wearing, which was found, as well as some other additional information. And they had created a flyer years ago before I got to Region 4, and I also provided that flyer as well as information on where the public could go online and find these, what's called NiqueatNite, where they could find that link and provide more information to potentially provide tips.
And as a result of that media exposure, did y'all receive calls in, to your knowledge? Did y'all receive calls or emails? Well, let's back up just a minute. How would someone, if I wanted to make a tip to the GBI as a person, a layperson in the community, how would I make a tip? Give a tip to the GBI? How would that look? What kind of form would that be?
So the GBI has a, what we call, we call it the watch desk. And what it is, we have an entire intel unit. It's called GSAC, and it's Georgia Intelligence, and I forgot what the S stands for, but it's a bunch of analysts that scour information for us for investigative leads. But part of that is a tip line that they monitor, and it is given out whenever we are talking to the public, because information can be given anonymously that way. So when a call comes in, then an analyst will answer that call, they will take the information, and then they will relay it to supervisors and the case agent of that case, so that they can follow up on the tip. We always alert the watch desk when we know we're going to run some media that may generate calls. The GBI has also set up an app. It's called the CSend app, and you can actually go on the app and provide information anonymously that way also. In this case, I know that we got tips through the watch line call, through the 1-800 number. I don't recall specifically we got through the CSend app, but I know we got multiple tips based on the media that we did.
And did y'all follow through or follow up when y'all received the tips on the checks?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did that result in any information or any leads?
It did.
And was it several tipsters that, gave information that created a lead for y'all or generated a new lead?
It did. We had multiple tips that were relevant in this case.
You're on the right page, just one second. You had said that there were a sketch of what they thought the baby Jane Doe looked like. Was there a reconstruction as well?
I believe there was a reconstruction done, so GBI has a forensic artist, and I know that the GBI had done a forensic rendering, NiqueatNite had a forensic artist that I believe did a rendering. I can't remember if there were others also. These had all been done prior to my arrival at Region 4.
All right. No further questions at this time, Your Honor. I'm sure the defense will have some questions for you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good to see you
Yeah,
again.
you too.
Just a few follow-up questions for you. I believe I heard you say that the GBI in cases such as this is you partner with law enforcement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And can you explain this partnership? You said that the GBI doesn't necessarily take the lead as collaboration.
Not quite correct. So yes, it is a collaboration, but the GBI, once requested, is the lead investigative agency, and we are assisted by the local law enforcement as needed.
When you say as needed, it would be the GBI specifically requesting local law enforcement to take certain acts.
Yes, typically it would be GBI that's the lead agency making certain decisions and asking for the local law enforcement. Sometimes though, it is actually the suggestion of local law enforcement based on that local knowledge that they have, and they kind of lead us to investigate also.
So you don't have to turn your head out and And you said that you're the supervisor over Region 4, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So you're familiar with, you have quarterly reviews.
That's correct.
With this relationship that you have with local law enforcement, do you just call the receptionist at local law enforcement to ask for something to be done? Or is there a specific person that you must reach?
There's not a specific person. Traditionally, what would happen is the case agent is going to be working with, like the local law enforcement's lead investigator that would be working, and they're working together on a, I don't know if it's daily, depending on the case, daily, weekly, at some frequency, they're coordinating with each other and getting ideas on what needs to be done and who needs to do what.
In your quarterly review of this file, who was the lead investigator for the Warren County Sheriff's Office?
I believe our main point of contact was Neil Steer, I believe in this case, or recall correctly.
And that would be the person that, if there is something significant that needs to be done, the GI would reach out to Major Terry.
Not necessarily if it's significant. Again, it's a partnership. Well, yes, when we're requested, we are the lead agency, but we will a lot of times coordinate. There are some things, remember, part of the value of GBI being requested is the fact that we can work this case, and the locals who have a much broader range of responsibilities can handle things locally. And as we need assistance and as we're talking through the case facts, we can work with the local owners.
I was just trying to get a better understanding. So, is it actually still the GI's case?
That's correct.
And GI, based on the investigation, actually received a report, an award for their investigation in this case. Is that correct?
Received an award.
Yes.
Correct.
And we saw that over in your office a couple of days before, is that correct?
That's correct.
And it was based on the thorough investigation that you did in this case?
That's correct.
Do you remember interviewing and collecting DNA in this case?
Yes, prior to the media, that media list that we ran, we were, again, tracking down, we had done some advanced DNA testing, and we were trying to, work our way towards the family of, baby Jane Doe. And so, yes, there was DNA collected, I believe, within the 6 months or so prior to us doing the media work on it.
And in your review of the file, do you recall when you submitted those DNA samples that you participated in collecting?
Yes, sir, I do not.
If you reviewed your file, will you refresh your recollection?
If I review my file?
Yes.
Yes, if you have them up. So when it comes to evidence and how that handles, again, the agent coordinates when it goes to the lab, so I may not be involved in, like, the actual timing of it, but because our labs are so far out, we're all going in different directions, so I'm going to the lab sometimes. If I know evidence needs to go to the lab, I will transport it.
Well, were you aware that this case was being presented to a jury today?
Yes, sir.
Did you review the file before you came to court?
I reviewed, the investigative acts that I was involved in. Yes, sir.
But you also had quarterly reviews, is that correct?
Quarterly, file reviews where we go over the details of the case and where we stand. At that point, basically what had been accomplished in the last quarter as far as where we plan on going with it over the future.
And you said that the case was signed to Agent Huntley, I think in 2020,
It was either in 2019 or 2020.
and she's the lead agent.
That's correct.
If she had her file and you reviewed her file, would it refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
When you submitted these DNA samples?
Yes, sir.
You remember that, Evelyn?
Yes.
refresh us on when you submitted the DNA?
The report that I have doesn't have that. It's just,
So it doesn't have that information. The question was, do you recall when you submitted?
yes,
You don't recall when you submitted.
yes.
And you did some media clips after the arrest of Ms. Odom, is that correct? You did some interviews about the case after.
I believe the only thing that was done after her arrest was, the press conference to announce.
You even talked to radio stations and news stations.
Yes, there were, I believe, a few news stations that reached out. I don't recall specifically which one I talked to.
Nothing further this time.
All right.
Yes. Agent Seacrest, as being an agent, let me ask you this, when you first started with the GBI, what was your position or what was your title?
I started out with the GBI as a special agent one, and I was originally assigned to a drug task force that covered 4 or 5 counties in South Georgia.
And over the course of being an agent, y'all create a case file. After y'all make an arrest, who gets access to that case file? Like, what do y'all do with it?
Once an arrest is made, of course, there's a lot of documentation that the GBI has to complete for a case file. Once the case file is completed, we make a copy of it and we turn it over to the district attorney's office for review and for use in prosecution.
And have you been a participant in jury trials before, testified about the GBI?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
And based on your knowledge of the cases and trials, do the defense counsel usually have copies of the GBI case file?
Yes, ma'am, it's part of discovery and is required.
And how do they get that case file? Or how do they get that evidence in case file?
In my experience, it is provided to the defense by the prosecution.
So basically, they have a copy of y'all's case file. Is that your experience in the past?
Yes, ma'am,
And access to the same documents?
that's correct.
And they asked you about that DNA, about when you submitted it. Do you know you submitted that DNA at all?
I don't.
Okay, all right. And they asked you about the press conference after the arrest of the defendant here. What's the purpose of the press? I just heard some echo, sorry. What's the purpose of the press conference?
There's a lot of information and a lot of things that go on out in the communities with concern over whether cases are forgotten. There's podcasts made over it. There are national news stories about cases that have been unsolved. Many times, in my opinion, in my experience, there's the incorrect assumption that a case has been forgotten, that the police aren't investigating anymore. And that couldn't be further from the truth. All these years, for example, when Baby Jane Doe, all these years, there was constantly work being done on this case, but the community just doesn't see it. So much stuff is done behind the scenes, both from an intelligence perspective of trying to find information to follow the leads, interviews that are done that the public never knows about, leads that are provided that we follow up on that nobody ever hears about, but end up not being legitimate leads. These go on for years sometimes. And while the public thinks these aren't being worked, they always are. So a news conference, when we have successfully made an arrest and a cold case, hardly is to let the public know we don't forget forget about these cases. We are still working these cases. And so it is to basically to be transparent with the community and to let them know that we are working these cases that people think are forgotten. But also the victims' families who have lost hope is to let them know that yes, there is still hope. We are still working to bring a conclusion, at least, to their family members, typically in these cases, horrific deaths. So it's about providing that information and reassuring the public that we are continuing to work these cases.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
I just wanted to make sure.
I'm sorry. Agent, after someone's been arrested and y'all done this press conference, are there ever any times, or is it common that sometimes more witnesses will come forward or and give y'all more information? Or is the case just over at the arrest? I don't mean over, but are y'all just done with it when someone's arrested? Or is it could it continually evolve?
Yes. A case is never over at an arrest. As a matter of fact, sometimes the case ramps up after arrest because there's so much follow-up that needs to be done, so much information that can occur at the time of arrest and immediately after. So in this case, we did a press conference, and yes, it does generate new information. But even if we don't do a press conference, we typically do a press release after we made an arrest in the case. And it's not uncommon at all to give new information, whether called directly into our office in Douglas, or whether it again goes back through that tip line that I mentioned earlier.
And in this case, was it just the agents and people in the state of Georgia that were investigating this case, or were there outside resources, looked at? Like you mentioned the missing children, what you said, the national.
The national network exploited in this.
Okay, and is that something common that y'all are trying to identify someone, that y'all utilize?
Yes, so in this case, we're talking about other agencies, like National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. One of the labs that we use for DNA that is on the cutting edge of this technology is also, they're more, actually throughout the United States, but they're headquartered out of different states. So this is a good opportunity for them because their technology works. There are, in this case, in the very beginning of the case, there was a lot of looking around for missing children in other states that had been compared to see if these were missing children from other states. So this case, from the time that it started, actually had connections all the way through, I don't know how many other states, but I would say at least 10 based on other missing children that were being looked at.
Nothing further at this time, John.
I think I heard you say something about transparency to the community,
That's correct.
and you also talked about the documentation part. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Problems.
Problems?
Yes.
No, the documentation process.
Oh, process.
Yes, sir.
But you review the documents.
That's correct.
And do you actually read the documents, make sure the dates add up,
Make sure that,
that the dates are consistent?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Do we have a telephone? And are you familiar with the GBI? Are you familiar with how the documents, what was received from who and by who?
I'm not familiar with like their process of doing it.
That question was from? This is Defendant's Exhibit 3. It's been previously admitted. Can you look at entry 2, entry 02?
Number 2 under description of evidence.
Yes, can you tell the jury what day or to that document the evidence was submitted?
So this is an old format that was used a long time ago, so we still see these sometimes in as we read these court cases. I don't think it's, I believe it looks like maybe December.
Well, I gave you another document, would it make it easier for you?
Potentially, yes.
I'm approaching with State's Exhibit 15. And I'm referring to lines 2 and 3. Right, you have to tell the jury what days, of course, that document, the items were received by the GBI crime lab.
You mean under the chain of custody?
Yes, in the chain of custody.
So it looks like it was turned over to the headquarters crime lab on,
Are you familiar with chain of custody forms?
I am,
Did you review this chain of custody forms in your quarterly review?
no, in a quarterly review, we'll go over every single document in the case file. This case file is very, very large, so for us to go through every case would not be possible or very usable, really. This is something that occurred long before the very beginning stages of the case, so I would not have reviewed this as part of the quarterly file review.
So, based on your training experience with the GBI, being the agent in charge of Region 4, are you telling this jury that you're unable to conclusively tell by reading State's Exhibit 15 what date of items listed on line 2 and 3 were received by the GBI crime lab?
So I'm a little bit confused by this particular property receipt without seeing more, as far as context around this within the case file. And the reason that I'm unsure is because yes, it is a GBI evidence receipt. It appears that it was relinquished by Detective Carl James, who's the investigator at the time, but is now a sheriff, so it seems that we would have already turned this over to him.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Okay.
You're saying,
So maybe to give a little context. So, excuse me, when we talk about evidence and collection of evidence, there is somebody that collects the evidence, typically an investigator that's on the scene. And then as we pass the evidence to another law enforcement officer, whether it be for transport or whether it be for processing, we have what's called this chain of custody. In chain of custody, so if I am giving it to Agent Hundley, I would put on this form as relinquished by SAC and JCC first, and relinquished to or received by this form, SA Taylor Hundley.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
My question was about the date.
Okay. It says December 27th.
Yes, the question was, what day was that item turned over?
Your question was what day was it turned over to the lab? And the relinquished by Detective James, the received by doesn't say lab. It says the person's name that I'm not familiar with, and the purpose of the custody chain is lab exam. So by this property receipt, I can't tell you if it was turned over to another person for transport to the lab, or whether that person is a person at the lab, because this is from 1988 and onwards.
So you're saying you weren't part of the GBI at that time?
That's correct.
So somebody from the GBI would know what that item was turned over?
Again, the it appears that the GBI was not the one that turned this over because it was relinquished by Detective Payne.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
So let me ask you. Can you teach me how to use the GBI form?
Sure.
So, where it has the top portion where we go through item 1, quantity, description of property, who writes this information?
Okay, so this is the old version form before we went digital. And this is what I came on with and what we were trained with. It's called a GBI form. Now, who physically actually filled it out? Typically would be the agent that was collecting the property. However, there could be a difference in with a crime scene specialist who may have, an agent may have obtained the property, but the crime scene specialist is the one that would fill out the form. It could go a couple different ways. But, yes, item number 1, it's just a description thing. So it's just, item number 1 is how it's listed, just to keep track of things. There was quantity of 1, and then there was this items collected was the black metal suitcase with silver tape, contains brown gym bag and concrete. And then it goes on sequentially to item numbers so that you can track each one individually, and then the quantity of how many of the items that was collected, and then a description of the item that was collected.
And when you get down to the bottom portion of the screen, it has item 1 again, is that correct?
Before we skip down to that, though, I think it's important because the name and badge number of the agent obtaining the property. So while this is a GBI property receipt, again, we work collaboratively with local law enforcement. So you see the name and badge number of the agent obtaining the property was Detective Carl James, and his badge number of W-17. So you're asking me about when the GBI did something?
I'm not asking you about what you told me. We're walking through the form and we're using this as an example.
Okay.
So I'm not asking you specifically about the context on this document.
Okay.
I'm asking you about, does item 1 written at the bottom portion of the line, you refer to item 1 at the top.
That's correct.
And item 2, as is mentioned, will be referenced on this document on line 3.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
That's correct?
Yes, sir.
And the purpose of this form is just to keep track of materials, right, that were collected.
That's correct.
And the person who writes relinquished by, that would be the person who had custody and turned it over to the GBI. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And would that person write the date?
Yes, sir.
That's what I was asking. So now looking at stakes of the 15 again, with that understanding, did Detective Carl James on December 27th relinquish 856, which is on line 2, according to how you interpret the GBI property receipt?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at 856 on stakes of the 15, and it was relinquished on December 27th. 1988. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And 327 was also relinquished by Detective Carl James on December 27th, 1988.
That's correct.
Now, I understand you are working with GBI at this time. Now, I'm not asking you to speculate. But my specific question is, are items 2, 3, 5, 6 on line 2 of Defendant's Exhibit 1, are they relinquished on December 27th of 1988? That's my question. Is the date December 27th, 1988?
No, I'm just, is that a 6 or is that scribbled out?
We'll just go 2, 3, 5.
Okay. That says December 22nd.
And does on line 3, 7, and 8, does that also say December 22nd, 1988?
Yes, sir, it does.
Thank you. And this case started back in 1988, is that correct?
That's correct.
And I believe you said you collected your DNA about 6 months before you meet your list.
I believe it was about 6 months before we did the first media interview on that we began collecting DNA.
One moment. That's right.
Nothing further for this day, we would ask that you remain on call.
All right. Witness is, excused, but is to remain on call. Thank you very much. And we're back. Other exhibits,
So this is, Exhibit 3, and this is the subject.
just put it on here and go put it in the ground. Thank you very much.
Your Honor, we need to address I mean, Your Honor, I'm not sure how long their cross-example will be, so, I don't think she's, I think she did that.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, be seated, adjust your mic and get comfortable.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state your full name for the record?
Teresa Michelle Lee Ray.
And your last name is now Ray. I call you Lee and Evelyn.
Yes, ma'am, my last name
You
is.
would have known that. Okay. So Ms. Ray, where do you currently reside?
In Macon, Georgia,
Okay. And how long have you been in Macon?
about 5 to 6 years now.
Okay. And where did you live prior to living in Macon?
Albany, Georgia.
And how long did you live in Albany?
I've been back in Georgia approximately 10 years, 10, 11 years.
And where were you born at?
Here in Albany,
Okay. Were you raised in Albany?
I was not.
Where were you raised at?
In Florida,
And who is your mother?
Emily, she's now deceased.
Lee is her last name?
It is, it's her married name.
Married name, okay. And do you know, the defendant, Evelyn Odom, or, Zebecca Luciana?
She's my second cousin.
And how, can you describe how y'all are related? I know you said second cousin, but can you kind of go down and describe to the jury what the connection is, which side it's on, that type of thing?
It's on my mother's side, and her mother and my grandmother are sisters.
Okay. And did you, when you were, what's the age difference, if you know, between yourself and the defendant?
Just a couple of years.
Okay. And when you were growing up, did you ever have the opportunity to be around the defendant as when y'all were growing up, or were you kind of away from that side of the family?
I mean, when my mother and father brought us up for the summers, we would see them. I mean, we did family functions together. So, yeah, I know.
Okay. And what about once you got wrong, once you grew up, did you have any occasion to see her, or?
Nah, I chose not to.
Okay. Did you still go to, you mentioned family functions.
Yes, ma'am, I was at 98% of the family function.
Even after you were grown, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you continue to go to those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you say family functions, are you saying family functions on, your mother's side, or?
Yes, my mother's side.
Okay. And did you ever see, the defendant at any of the family functions?
Some of them.
And did you ever see the defendant after y'all were grown at any family functions?
One or two.
Okay. And do you know if the defendant had any children?
She had several children.
Okay. And did they attend the family functions?
Some of them.
Do you know how many she had?
Too many to count.
Okay. And do you know the names of the other?
There's Gregory, who he and I are pretty close. And then there's Dan, that's his nickname. And then there was Kiki, and some of the other children I'm not real familiar with because we didn't hang out with like that.
Okay. And you said you're not, we're gonna back up over this next just a little bit, but you say you're not familiar with some of the other children. If you know, were those children, younger, after Gregory and Man, or before? Do you know?
One or two, maybe 3 or 4 of them were before Gregory, and then the ones after Gregory. Because I know he has another sister that's younger than him.
Okay. Now let's back up, and I just want to make sure I understood what you said. Now, when you said, Greg, you talked about Gregory, and what, do you know his last name, or?
Peavy?
Okay. You said, well, we were close. Can you just describe what you're talking about
mean, I see Gregory a lot, and then when he ultimately moved to Florida for a couple of years, we became extremely close because he was in a new state. He didn't know how to move around, so we got close, because I had been in Florida all of my life. So it was showing him and my cousin Edith around Florida, making sure they were safe, making sure they knew the right people to talk to, just getting them acclimated to Florida.
Okay. And do y'all still maintain that closeness today?
We still talk, not as much as this incident, but I mean, we're still civil, we still talk.
Okay. And then you mentioned, after you mentioned Gregory, you mentioned a nickname. Are you saying that's Gregory's nickname, or is this
No.
another child?
That's another child.
And what was the nickname, or?
Man.
Do you know the, age difference between Gregory and Man?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Have you ever heard the name Patrick Thompson?
Once or twice.
Do you know if Patrick Thompson is Man?
It may be because some of the kids I'm not familiar with, so I can't tell you their real names because we just know them by their nicknames. Unfortunately, they may be family, but it is what it is.
Okay. And then you mentioned Kiki and,
Kenyatta.
Kenyatta. And then you said others that you didn't have.
She has another sister, Gregory has another sister that's out there, but I don't know her personally.
Okay. Did you ever see Kiki or Kenyatta at any family functions?
Once or twice when we were younger, I was a teenager.
Do you know about what year that would have been? If you don't, it's okay. I'm gonna have to math that.
No, not really. I mean, I had my son when I was 17, and that was in '87. So I was young.
Yes. Okay. And did you ever visit, Evelyn at her house when?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. And did you continue to have any type of contact with the defendant, whether it be social media, anything like that?
Not for a couple of years, and then a couple of years ago, we got into a scuffle on Facebook, and yeah, other than that, there was no constant contact.
Now, you mentioned, family and how Gregory and your Aunt Edith came to Florida, his cousin, I'm sorry, I said Aunt Edith came to Florida.
Yes,
Is there any, relatives, y'all have any relatives on the defendant's side of the family that live in Ware County area?
we did, and his name was, I can't remember his name at this time because it was an older gentleman. But I know that that was family that lived in Ware County.
Did you ever visit family in Ware County?
No, my mother didn't allow it.
Now, you mentioned a while ago, you said, because of this incident, what incident are you referring to?
What do you mean?
You mentioned a while ago when I was asking you about the relationship with Ms. Odom, you said, because of this incident, I don't know what you referred to.
Well, she and I, in 2023, got into a Facebook scuffle, and she was trying to be Facebook thugging, and thugging. And, we went into some stuff and said some stuff to each other on Facebook, and, at that time as we were Facebook thugging, you guys flashed Kiki's picture.
Okay. So, tell me about the picture, tell me what you saw.
So there was a sketch, so let me just back up, because I want you to get the clear picture.
Sure.
So she and I were arguing on Facebook, and she was basically trying to, embarrass and kind of just ridicule me on Facebook by talking about my past and saying that I had been in jail, and that, which is true, and I'm not ashamed of it. I did it, I stood in my truth. But she was on Facebook, trying to say how I had went to jail, paid my bills. So, you know, I went on Facebook and I said, well, tell your friends how you slept with your husbands. Not one, not two, but 5 of them. And possibly had babies. So let's not get on Facebook and go get crazy about it. It wasn't this polite, but that's what was the gist of it. And then while we were arguing, Kiki's sketch started surfacing on the web and on the news. And as it started surfacing, we started talking, and we were sharing the sketch through the family on Facebook. And I said, Harpo, who this baby? And Harpo, who this baby? So, and I was aiming it at Evelyn. She didn't respond.
Why were you aiming it at Evelyn?
Because she looked like me. She looked like people in our family.
You're talking about the sketch?
The sketch.
Right. Well, let's back up a little bit. Would you have any reason to believe that a child of the defendants was missing?
Yes, ma'am.
And when was the last time that you know personally that Kenyatta existed?
It was years ago. Not sure when she exactly went missing, but the story was told that,
Objection, I'll do it.
Yeah, don't say what anybody wants said. So you're not sure of the day, but you were.
No, I'm not
you
sure
were
of the day.
Okay. You were aware, though, that.
yes, I was aware.
Okay, and did you ever ask the defendant about Kiki's whereabouts?
No.
All right, so back to, you saw the sketch and it looked like your family. You're talking about the side of the family that is connected to the defendant?
Yes.
Same side of the family?
Yes.
Okay, so you saw the sketch and then you shared it and then what happened?
So after we started seeing the sketch, I, at that time, called GBI.
And once you called GBI, what did you do next? Or what did you have to do? What did you do personally next?
Well, I left the information with GBI, and Detective Taylor called me a couple of days later, and I explained to her my thoughts, and I gave her the name. I told her that her name was Kiki.
Let's back up just a minute. You said you shared your thoughts with Agent Hundley. What can you elaborate on that?
Well, I had told her that there was a story.
Objection, I'll hearsay.
You can talk about anything you observed or personally saw, like you talked about the sketch that saw, but don't talk about anything that's in a report or anything unless it's some report you would have made. You can say you saw something, but you can't talk about the content of it if you didn't make it.
Well, I mean, you guys are asking me how did I relay the information to Detective Taylor. That's what I was doing. I'm telling you what I told her.
Sure. And once you relayed the information to Agent Hundley, what happened next?
She asked me to meet her in Macon, Georgia, at one of the police stations. I did. We discussed some other facts that I knew. Like I said, I gave her Kiki's name, her real name, and I gave her DNA.
After you gave DNA, did you still
I knew in my heart that Kiki belonged to us, because I said it to Detective Taylor.
I've got one question. Yes, Detective Taylor is detective.
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't know her married name.
Which one I keep together?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
I was trying to stay straight, let me have that.
And what year were you born, Ms. Ray?
1970.
Do you know, what year the defendant was born?
I do not.
Your testimony earlier, we are similar, close in age at least?
Me and Evelyn,
Yes, I'm sorry.
she may be, we're close in age. She might be in her mid-50s to early 60s. I'm in my mid-50s.
No further questions at this time. The defense will ask the questions for you, Ms. Ray. Thank you.
1 second, y'all. How you doing today, Ms. Wright? Thank you for showing me up. Now, you didn't just get asked on the regular examination about $5,000 that you received, did you?
No, and yes, I did receive it.
So you received a reward, correct?
I did.
Now, you stated on the regular examination that you had a battle with Ms. Odom on Facebook,
We did.
and at no point did you provide Agent Huxley with any of those Facebook posts, had you?
She had deleted it before I reported it to the GBI.
But you didn't provide your posts, did you?
When you delete Facebook posts on one page, it deletes everything.
So she has access to delete your posts?
If I post it on her page, yes.
So again, you never provided anything.
No, I did not.
They've never requested your Facebook handle or anything of that nature,
No,
right?
No.
They never talked to you about seeking a search warrant for your Facebook, correct?
no.
Now, you stated that you know Ms. Odom, correct?
Yes,
So y'all a few years difference in age, right?
yes,
In fact, you said she had numerous children, right?
yes,
You stated that you were close to Gregory people, right?
yes,
You stated that Ms. Odom may have had 1 or 2 children before Gregory Peter, right?
yes.
But you're really close to Gregory Peter, right?
You just asked me that, yes.
But yet you don't know that he's the oldest child, do you?
And there's a lot of family members that I don't know the order, but I know that they're family.
I understand, but you didn't know that he was the oldest child, did you? We need to work with this one.
No,
You also never told the GBI, Agent Hunter, that you were super close to Gregory Peter, did you?
she never asked me.
Had she asked, you would have told her, right?
I would have.
And you all had an in-person meeting, and that was your opportunity to divulge information, and I guess engage in a Q&A session with her about what you do, right?
We did have a Q&A session.
Correct, but that was the purpose of the meeting, right?
It was.
Now, on direct examination, you stated that you had seen Kenyatta or Kiki once or twice at, I guess, family functions when you were a teenager?
Yes.
All right.
On summer vacations when we would come up, like I stated.
Correct. But is it also true that in that conversation with Agent Huntley, you told her that you had never met Kenyatta, did you?
No, I did not.
So if Agent Huntley put that in a report, that Teresa Lee said she had never met Kenyatta, that wouldn't be true.
I don't recall saying that to her because I do recall when she and I had our last face-to-face that I was talking to another young lady and expressed that I knew Kenyatta, that I had seen Kenyatta before.
Understood. Well, I just want to make sure I understand the question. So you don't recall if you made that statement, right?
I do not.
You stated that you had met her at, once or twice at a family function. But isn't it also true that you told Agent Huntley that Kenyatta had never been to any of you all's family functions?
I said that after she went missing, she had never been to any of the family functions after she went missing. Yes, I did say that.
So if you stated that, it should reflect that in Agent Huntley's report that, just let me finish the question, that you stated specifically after you assumed Kenyatta went missing is when you didn't see her at any family functions, right?
Your Honor, I would object to anything what should have been in Agent Huntley's report. She would have no access to the report or anything, I'm just saying.
One second. One second. Very briefly, say that you had been in jail on direct examination, right?
I did.
Still, according to ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what you went to jail for?
Why is that relevant? We're not talking about me.
Ms. Lee? I'm sorry, Ms. Wright.
I went for writing bad checks. I've gone for scheming to defraud.
I'm sorry, the last one was what now?
Scheming to defraud.
Scheming to defraud. Now, have you ever had a probation revocation, or what happened with those charges?
They were 15, 20, almost 20 years ago. But yes, I did. Yes, I was on probation for some of those. Yes, I did violate probation once or twice. Being young, yes, I did.
I'm gonna go back to the children. Could you name all of Ms. Old's children?
I just told you a while ago, no, I couldn't.
tell the court the ages of all of this other children?
If I can't tell you all of their names, how can I tell you all of their ages? So the answer is no.
You talk about family functions. Could you please tell us what the nature of those family functions were? Without family reunions, just
It was
gatherings, anything?
It was family reunions, weddings, funerals, just getting togethers, barbecues.
Let's talk about family reunions. Did your family reunion occur in one spot? Every of these all kind of like, I don't want to say destination, but like kind of bounce around and get relatively.
I mean, most of them on this side of the family, of my mother's side of the family, they were all here in Albany. And usually they were at, every year they would be at either somebody else's house or at a park.
But you never been to Miss Odom's home, have you?
No.
I noticed you never stated on direct examination, or you never told Agent Humphrey that you saw Miss Odom harm y'all, did you?
No, I didn't tell her that I saw her harm her.
Because you never seen it.
No.
1 second.
It's Teresa Lee Ray.
Right, R-A-Y, yes, we thank you.
That's for that time, you know?
All right, anything else to say?
Just briefly, Ms. Ray, your testimony is that you physically observed King Eye,
Yes, I've seen her once or twice in her life, yes,
and until she went missing,
until she went missing.
and you never saw her again.
Never saw her again.
And you gave, how you gave DNA, you testified that you gave DNA to them?
I did give DNA.
And how was that done? How did you do
When she met me at the Macon Sheriff's Office, her and another individual came in and they swabbed me
it? Okay, and where did they swab you at?
in my mouth.
Okay, and did you agree to let them do that?
I did.
And after your interaction with the GBI, to this day, you still believe you're related to the defendant and her daughter, King Eye Odom?
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions, Ron. Anything else?
1 second, y'all. You know, we got a motion we can take up outside president of the jury.
All right. With the jury and the witness step outside.
Huntley that after you seen the sketch, that in your heart, you knew that Kenyatta was related to you, even though you had never met her?
I have met Kenyatta, and yes, I did tell her that in my heart, I knew she was mine.
Even though you never met her, correct?
I have met Kenyatta.
I'm saying, I'm asking about a specific statement. Isn't it true that you told Agent Huntley, just let me finish, in the interview you did with her, that once you saw the sketch, that in your heart, you knew Kenyatta was related to you, even though you never met her?
That's not what I said, and I don't recall saying that, and I can't tell you what's in her report, but I did say that I met Kenyatta when she was younger, before I had my baby. And that when I saw the sketch, that in my heart, I knew she was mine.
One second. I just want to make sure I understand. Is your position that you told Agent Huntley that I guess when you were a teenager, that you had met Kenyatta at some point?
Yes.
No further questions, John.
Nothing further.
Right, because we step down and excuse.
She can be excused, Sean.
No, Your Honor, I need to take a promotion, Your Honor.
All right, step outside, please.
Your Honor, we would like to adjourn here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
times.
Did you have an opportunity to speak with any investigators from the district attorney's office prior to you testifying today?
I did.
And did that investigator, whoever you spoke with from the Doherty County District Attorney's Office, did they, I guess, allow you to review and say that you have?
No,
Did they go, I don't want you to think I'm accusing you of anything, did they go over any statement which that you made?
no,
So you didn't listen to the audio or anything you said?
no.
Did they ask you what your testimony was on each day?
He just told me to stand in my truth and answer yes and no to what I knew and what I didn't know, and that's what I've done.
Do you know when you met with that individual from the Doherty County District Attorney's Office?
That's after you, please.
Do you, does she recall when you met with the individual from the Doherty County District Attorney's Office?
I think it was Wednesday morning,
This Wednesday of this week, right?
yes.
No further questions at this time, Judge.
No further questions for the state, Your Honor.
All right, five, two, be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right,
No objection, Your Honor.
all right, all right, excuse, thank you very much. Would you step to recall?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. State next witness.
Yeah, with inquiry here about lunch, the lunch schedule, so state would submit that. This will be a good time,
It's just 11:30.
11:30.
It's just 11:21. They didn't have it available.
Yeah, we have it.
We go.
Let's go.
We go.
They will call Julia Barnes.
Thank you. I think we take much closer to the 12:30 hour.
We're moving forward, you know.
So,
Okay, Your Honor, I don't have to, we've had an issue with that, I don't have to, say we call Teresa Odom. Well, I understand, I just,
Teresa.
yes, they just notified me that.
Right, thank you.
Okay, yes, sir. That's it. Teresa Odom. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were. I apologize, I apologize. We're doing it, okay. I apologize. she is under subpoena. You physically saw her. Said that she brought her up. I'll call Hope Griffin.
Hope Griffin. Ms. Griffin, good morning. Still got some more. Raise your right hand, you step up, honey. Raise your right hand, be sworn. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this trial is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Have a seat, please. You're gonna adjust your mic. Are you soft spoken? No. Okay. Relax. Proceed.
Yes, could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Hope Griffin.
Okay. And where do you reside at? What town?
Here in Albany.
Okay. And are you from Albany originally?
Yes.
Okay. And who is your mother?
Jacqueline Pruitt.
Okay. And are y'all related to anyone? Well, back over. You were subpoenaed for this case?
Yes.
Okay. And you, when I say this case, do you know which case I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Are you related to any of the parties that are involved in this case?
Yes.
And who would that be?
Ulysses Sanders.
Okay. And how are you related to Ulysses Sanders?
That's my uncle.
Okay. All right. And when you were growing up, did you have occasion to see Mr. Sanders or Ulysses
Yes.
a lot?
Yes.
How often would that be?
A lot.
Okay. And did y'all ever, you or your mother ever visit his home?
Yes, ma'am.
Did y'all ever visit his home when he was with the defendant?
Yes.
And did you ever, well, let's back up. Did your uncle, and do you call him Ulysses, Uncle Ulysses, or is there another name?
I call him by another name.
Okay, and what would that be?
Uncle Austin.
Okay.
Uncle what? Lost. Can you spell? Okay. Thank you. That's okay. Wait.
And, does he have children to your knowledge?
Yes.
And how many children does he have?
He had two, but one passed away, so one now.
Okay, so the child that's still alive, what's that child's name?
Carrie Sanders.
Okay, and, do you know approximately how old she is? It's okay if you don't.
About 37, maybe.
Okay. Do you have contact with her?
No.
And, who is Carrie's mother?
Evelyn, Odom.
Would that be the defendant here? And you said that he had another child that passed, is that what you said?
That's correct.
Okay. And what was that child's name?
He was a junior, so it was named after the mom.
Okay. And, did you ever know that child?
No.
Okay, did you go to the funeral of that child?
No.
And, who was the mother of your listener, Junior. The defendant, okay. All right. Do you know, speaking of your uncle and the defendant, did they have any of, you said your uncle only had 2 children, so they had no other children together between them, to your knowledge?
No other children.
Okay. Do you know if the defendant herself had any additional children?
Yes.
Okay, and do you know how many?
3 other.
Okay, and do you know the names? I know you already said Carrie was one child between them, but any other children? Do you know their names?
Yes, I call them by their nickname.
Okay.
There was, Kiki, which is,
I'm sorry.
King Island.
Okay.
And, Man and Willie.
Man.
And Willie. That's what I know. Willie is.
And do you have any, contact with the other children, Man or Bowie, was it, spelled out, but, and no contact with them? Okay, all right. And what year were you born?
1984.
Okay. And do you know the age difference between you and any of the defendant's children? The children we're talking about here?
I know they're probably older than you probably.
And did you ever meet, Kiki or Kenyatta
No,
that you recall?
I never recall.
Okay. And have you ever spoken with the defendant since you've been an adult?
No,
Have you ever, did you speak with her when you were a child?
not that I can recall.
Okay. And, you said that your mother was, Jacqueline Brewer? Do you remember speaking with Agent Hunley here?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. And do you remember telling her about a time that you saw the defendant at Harvey's on Slappy?
Yes.
And do you remember any statements the defendant made regarding Kiki on that day?
No, they heard my mom was just having a conversation with each other.
You don't remember telling Agent Hunley that you heard Evelyn, the defendant, say that Kim Guyton had 2 kids and was living in California?
Well, my mom said that, that's what she told me.
So that day when you were in Harvey's, you did not hear that? No, I clarified her last statement, I don't understand what she said. Your mom told you that, did your mom tell you that while you were in Harvey's?
I can't recall.
So, you didn't tell Agent Hunley that you overheard the defendant say that you...
Objection, ask and answer.
Sustained.
You understand when you were interviewed by Agent Hunley, it was recorded, correct?
Have to speak up.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just want to make it clear that you are denying that you stated that to her. You're denying now?
I can't recall, I'm sorry.
All right, no further questions, it's been.
No question, no question.
All right, no questions for this witness. I just want to step down.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
No.
State will call Jacqueline Pruitt.